The opinions expressed are those of the host. The material is for informational purposes only. It does not constitute investment advice, and it is not intended as an endorsement for any specific investment. Visit CrestmontPW.com for more details.
Welcome to the Ascent. This is Sam McGee with Crestmont Private Wealth, and we have offices in Houston, Texas, and Boerne, Texas. You can reach us at CrestmontPW.com. We typically work with high net worth families as well as those with $1 million in liquidity and up. So we're continuing part B of our series with Jeremy Farber with Home Instead. And I feel like we didn't get through what we wanted to get through last week. And so we're going to continue this conversation, and I kind of want to frame this a little bit. I'm going to give 3 different scenarios that we can talk about. So one is aging couple, no kids. All their family is maybe distant. Maybe they've got nieces and nephews, but they're out of state, so they don't really have a care plan. So that's kind of scenario 1. Scenario 2 is middle-aged couple with a special needs child. And there's obviously advanced planning for that with special needs trusts and all sorts of things we're not going to get into today. We're talking about the non-medical, daily living kind of things that these people will eventually need at some point. What does that look like? You know, is it break glass when necessary you find these folks, or are they talking to you 10 years in advance? Like, what does that look like? And maybe describe a success case.
Man, that's so important to think about. First of all, thanks for having me back.
Yeah,
it's great to
thanks
be
for
back.
coming back.
This is a really important topic for people that have a special needs child, and you provide such a valuable service helping them walk through this. And I can tell you that we had the good fortune, we have a daughter with a rare syndrome. With that, you have a small number of people, and there's a lot of information in that small group of people. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things is financial planning. And that's such a huge part of the process if you have a special needs child. I would encourage anybody that doesn't have somebody, if they have a special needs child and they don't have somebody, they need to find somebody that can help them walk through the process, because there's so much wrapped into, you know, the programs that are in place and being able to protect their assets so they don't eat into their assets. You know, there's just a lot wrapped up into that. So they need to find somebody if they don't have it. From a care perspective.
And if you're listening to this and you happen to need that kind of planning help, you can absolutely reach us. I definitely want to hear more of the practical, hands-on side of it when they need it. You know, how do people plan for that?
Yeah, so...
Or do they call you when, you know, last minute kind of thing? What does that look like?
We actually use a caregiver for our daughter. You know, my wife and I both have our own businesses, and we both help each other out. But there are times when I'm not at home today and my daughter can't be fully independent. She can provide care for herself, but she has to have guidance. So for us, it's helpful to have somebody there that can make sure she's safe. There are many families that could benefit from having somebody, whether it's private or it's using an agency like us, it doesn't matter, but having somebody that helps them stay safe. And sometimes government programs can provide that. But how do you protect your assets if you have a government program providing that to where it doesn't eat into it over time? And those are things that you come into play. For us, we're really looking at helping them stay at home or wherever they need to be. So we provide transportation. Do they go to a day program? Can we help get them there? Does the government program that helps pay for that day program pay for transportation to get there? You know, does the family want to utilize the government program? Those are all questions that they need to ask individually as a family and decide what's best for them.
So in the example of the couple that doesn't have children and maybe, you know, they have a long-term care policy in place, what would it look like for them? Say they age gracefully, they get into their mid-80s, and then suddenly, you know, there's a bit of a problem. They're forgetting to take medicine, or they're doubling up or something like that. And it's kind of like, oh gosh, I can't keep living this way. Like, do you get those kind of phone calls? Or like, how does someone engage you? And is it, you know, is that typical? Does that happen?
No, it happens all the time. You know, what we hope for is that somebody picks up the phone and they call us and use us as a resource, right? We don't have to be the emergency call, right? I hope somebody that's listening will hear what I'm saying and pick up the phone and call us or reach out to us through the internet, through our website. to start the conversation, because what we really value is having a conversation ahead of time and helping people plan, just like you do.
Sure.
Right? From a financial standpoint, we want to help them utilize the resources that they have. You got to make them last as long as they're alive, right?
Yep.
And hopefully they have some left over that they can pass down to a family member. But what does it look like to start thinking about and having that conversation? The planning aspect, like we talked about in the first episode, is so critical. We want people to start thinking about where they're going. So don't wait until there's an accident. You know it's around the corner. If they're in their mid-80s, what you described, it's a perfect time to pick up the phone. Memory's starting to slip. We do know that people are living longer now than they ever have. Our medicines and physicians are able to keep people around longer, but there's problems with memory when it comes to that. The worst case scenario would be both the husband and the wife start to experience memory issues at the same time, and there's not family around. Then what do you do? But even if it's slight and you start to notice some things, talk with a family member, pick up the phone and call us. Let's start having a conversation ahead of time.
So if you were to describe this, you mentioned earlier that it's not per se medical care in the home, but it is the daily living activities. Would you describe for our listeners what those daily living activities are? And maybe that gives them a sense of, oh, yeah, my aunt or my grandfather or my dad is experiencing not being able to do all those.
Sure. So activities of daily living, what we're typically, when we talk about that, we're non-medical, like you mentioned, but we really focus a lot. Most of the people we help need help with activities of daily living. That's bathing, grooming, dressing, toileting, things of that nature. Sometimes we get them before they need any help with ADLs. Sometimes we get them where they have significant need. Where we hope to get them is early in the process, but very, very common. What we want to do is help them stay as independent as long as possible. And so when they're doing all of the activities, and a lot of times it's the wife caring for the husband or vice versa, and they're in their mid-80s, they wear themselves down trying to care for their loved one.
Sure.
Do the laundry, cook, clean, keep everything like it should be, like they have forever.
Yeah, all those things take more effort when you're older.
They take much more effort, and they end up wearing themselves down, and now they're both in a situation where they both need help. And what we hope to do is step in earlier in the process to take some of those things away, not take their independence away. That's very important, but work alongside them so they still get to do those things. But we're taking some of the pressure off and some of the physical, aspect off.
That's amazing. So in terms of the daily living activities, is that something where you guys show up at 7 a.m. and leave at 7 p.m, or is it case by case? Do you ever have live-in? I mean, what does that look like?
Yeah, those are all good questions right there. All of the above.
Okay.
Most of the time we're doing shifts in the morning and then shifts in the afternoon and then evening.
Okay.
We have 24/7 clients. We have clients that we go in just for 1 hour, a couple times a week just to help with a bath because they're unsafe when they do their own bathing. And so we step into that situation, make sure they're safe, make sure they're clean, and then that's it. That's all we provide. Versus we have, clients that are bedbound where we're providing everything that we need to from a 24/7 aspect, helping with medication reminders, making sure that everything's done that needs to be done where they're safe and clean and get to live with as much dignity as possible where they're at.
So how does that work for somebody? I'm sorry to ask all these questions, but I think it's important. So how does that work for maybe somebody out there that's listening to this that, they're around, they kind of help out, but they're starting to realize, oh gosh, I can't keep doing this. Like I'm burning the candle at both ends. Can they get a company like yours to come in, help out on the kind of fundamental things, and then if they leave town, be a 24/7? Is it adaptable is what I'm wondering.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And some agencies have more flexibility than others. We try and be as flexible as we can, but we have to maintain the integrity of our business. And, we have a limited number of what we call care professionals, caregivers.
Sure.
And so they have certain availability where they're available Monday through Friday. Sometimes, they only do overnight. Sometimes they only do weekends because they have a Monday through Friday job. So we have to take our pool of caregivers, those care professionals, and utilize them as best as we can. And so we're constantly hiring. It's an industry where 10,000 people turn 65 every day in the United States. So when we talk about baby boomers that are hitting this age that they really need care, we're in it. And we're going to be in a significant caregiver shortage over time. And so we're always hiring, but we have to balance that, right? What we have available and what we can provide.
You know, you just listed a stat, and I pulled this one up earlier, and it was staggering. This is an older stat, but in 2021, the U.S. total long-term care spending exceeded $467 billion with a B, and about 71% of that was paid by public programs. So I think the rise in private pay is here. As Americans, I think a lot of families are blessed with good fortune and can pay private pay and fill the gap of things that are not covered by Medicaid, Medicare with private pay. But obviously, this is a huge industry. And it's interesting because when I think about long-term care industry versus maybe, you know, this is kind of a strange analogy here, but like pet boarding and pet care. Isn't it wild how you can see like a pet boarding place when you go down I-10, you know, advertised? And not that there's anything against that, but gosh, people really care about their pets, and you see the advertising everywhere. But, you know, it's not something that you see a lot of advertising or information or knowledge about for in-home care on daily living.
That's a great thought.
It's strange.
You know, we have two franchises, one in New Braunfels and one in Bernie, and they've been around for over 20 years. And the people that started these franchises were cutting edge. Nobody even knew what in-home care was.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a thing.
Right.
It was there, and now we know more about it, but we're scratching the surface, and I think we're going to need more caregivers in the future.
Do you think it's one of these things where you don't really talk about it, you don't really know about it until you need it or you've experienced it?
It's what happens most of the time.
Yeah.
Where do you go?
Yeah.
You know, you're going to Google, right? I need help with mom, or I need help with dad.
Well, I know there's a lot of people listening to this right now, and folks that sign up for our newsletter that get the podcast version of this, which, by the way, if you do want to sign up for our newsletter, send us an email at info@crestmontpw.com. Every Monday, we send out a recap of these shows. I know there's people listening right now and wondering, what do I need to do? What do I need to do for my parent? What do I need to do for me and my wife, or me and my husband? You know, what does that look like? And it sounds like you kind of hit the nail on the head earlier. It's about having conversation. It's about planning, but then also awareness that businesses like yours exist. And you're obviously not the only one out there. But if someone wanted to reach out to you that happens to be in the Hill Country area, how would they find you?
Yeah, if they just look at homeinstead.com/Bernie, that'll take them directly to our local website.
And if you want to talk baseball, you can certainly reach out to...
Always willing to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Always love talking baseball.
Yeah, Homeinstead. Yeah, Jeremy, where did you coach again?
So 4 different colleges. Started in Florida, then Louisiana at Tulane University, then South Carolina at a very small private university, and then St. Edward's University here in Austin.
Very cool. Well, you'll have to talk baseball maybe in a show number 3 at some point. I'm a big baseball fan, so
there we go.
Good stuff. Jeremy, thank you so much for being on the show and imparting your wisdom. You know, hopefully we've opened some hearts and eyes and ears towards this problem that all of us are going to face at some point. You know, aging and capability, and that there's solutions for that. So thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
I hope everyone that's listening to this has a wonderful, blessed weekend. God bless.